Hello and welcome back to Monsters, Inc. Last time we began working on the scare floor and we framed in the shape of the room, and I think that turned out pretty well. And now that we have that, we can start building in the rest of the details around it. And we're going to begin today by building the scare floor entrance and the hallway beyond, which is down at this end of the scare floor. Once again, here's a picture of the scare floor. The entrance to this room is on the far wall, and here are some close-up shots of that. The big monitor is above the floor on the left, and you can just get a glimpse of the entrance in the lower right corner. Here's a close-up shot of that. There's a coffee station on the right wall. Roz's window is across from that on the left side of that area. Beyond the entrance, you can see the hallway that connects the different scare floors. Here's what Roz's window and her office looks like. Unfortunately, I could not find any building pieces that I could use that looked like this, and so I had to improvise. Notice the clipboards on the wall next to her office on the right-hand side of this shot, because you're going to see those again in another shot in a moment, which will help establish how this all fits together. The floor in this entrance looks like it's dark carpeting. And here's a shot of Mike talking with Roz at her window, and this shot confirms that Roz's office is indeed across from the coffee station, which you can see behind Mike in the background. Here's a shot of the hallway that connects the different scare floors. Behind Mike and Sully on the left is the entrance to their scare floor. Notice the wall around the scare floor entrance is painted green, and you can see the clipboards on the wall there. If you could pan this shot to the left, you'd see Roz's window, so that's where that is in relation to what we see here. The floor in this hallway is a tiled floor, and this is one of the reasons why I chose the Nomancian Island floor texture, terrain texture for this, because it's a good match. I think Sully's getting impatient with me. Now, as for the hall itself, if we look at this shot, which gets Mike and Sully out of the way, and Randall, and we just have Mike's girlfriend here, this shot gives us a better look at the hallway. The hallway has an arched ceiling, and it looks like it's made up of a grid of ceiling tiles. There are also two different sets of overhead lights. The first set arches over the ceiling like the rest of the ceiling tiles, and they're spaced at regular intervals. I can't tell if those skylights, if those lights are just skylights or if they're just special light tiles. The second set of lights, though, consists of two rows of fluorescent lights running up and down the ceiling along the length of the hallway. Now, this shot gives us a good look at the wall across from the scare floor entrance, and it looks like molded concrete to me. And there are some inset areas along the wall that have some textured vertical stripes. In this shot, you can see that there's a doorway further down the wall, and it looks like that leads to the offices in the main entrance building of the plant, because I see some wood paneling on the walls in that hallway, which is consistent with other shots in that part of the building. And since I don't have the memory available, unfortunately, to build the offices, the lobby, or the locker rooms, I chose to put the entrance from the exterior toy box there. So when the player enters the Monsters, Inc. factory, that's where they'll start from. It'll be right over there. And so this is what we're going to build today. And before we get started on that, there's a correction I need to make from last time. I had started off by placing this terrain block here and putting the terrain seam there. This block actually needed to go right here. And it can work here, but the way I'm going to do it will hide this terrain seam, and I think it's always good to hide terrain seams and make the world look as seamless as possible. So we're going to slide this 2 nudges over to the right so that it lines up like you see there. And then we'll slide the other floors over just a bit. And again, you'll see why I'm doing this in a moment, hopefully. Alright, so there we go. And that's going to put the terrain seam in the correct place. And we can go ahead and delete that. Alright, now back up to the basic blocks, and let me pull up my screen grabs here to make sure I get this correct. Alright, so we are going to drop the first block here just like this. And we're going to style this to be concrete 2, which will match the other concrete support beams in that area. And this is going to kind of frame in the right entrance to the right wall of the entrance there. Alright, so let me spin this around. Sorry for messing the camera up on you, but I just wanted to give you kind of a good look at that. We're going to drop 2 of these here like this. Alright. And then on the other side, we're going to put this one right up here like that on this side. And we'll drop 2 blocks here like that. And then I want to try to pick up the little balcony piece. That's going to sit in here just like that. And so if we look at this from this side, that's starting to frame in the shape of the entrance. And you'll see the terrain seam is running right here. And we're going to put our floor tiles down right along the edge of that here in a moment. And that'll hide that seam and also give us the dark floor that we want in here. And while we do that, why don't we go ahead and do that while we can see what we're doing. That might be a good idea. Alright, so we'll go ahead and drop this here. And for the carpeting in the entrance, we're going to set this to be the road texture. I'll set that to be my theme. And that pretty closely matches what we see in that screenshot. It doesn't look like carpet, but it has kind of a monstery look to it, which could pass as kind of a monster type carpet. And once we put the ceiling over top of this, it's going to darken this up considerably so the sunlight won't be hitting it directly, and it'll make it look a lot better. Alright, so there is that. Now, for the section above here, it's kind of a lot of empty space there, and so to fill that in, we're going to use some terrain blocks. So we'll come down to the terrain block drawer, and we're going to start with this small terrain block. Oops, that was weird. And we're going to put this right here, just like that. And we're going to set the theme on our terrain blocks to be the Imperial Space Station theme. And I like the look that that gives us. It's a nice dark look that's going to go well on that end of the toy box there. Alright, and then at the entrance, on the other side here, we're going to use a pair of these. We're going to drop these down like that, which takes us out to the edge of the carpeting there. And on this side, we're going to put 2 of these here like that. And we could throw another one up here, but I think I'll just use this block instead. Alright, so that encloses that area there. And that's looking pretty good. And if we want to, at this point, we can go up to the Set Pieces drawer, go to the right, and these are the only 2 pieces we have for the Scream Factory, is the doors and the Scare Floor video wall. And that piece will sit right up in here, just like that. I want to make sure we're up against that wall because it's not highlighting the block behind it. If we go back any further, it turns red. So the Scare Floor wall sits right there like that. And Yeah, right down there on the edge of the bottom edge of the terrain block. So now that's starting to look like the scare floor. I like that. Okay, for Roz's window, this is the part that I struggled with because I couldn't find anything I was really happy with for that. What I ended up using was this quarter skyscraper piece right here, which has those windows on the side. And we can tuck that in there like that. And that gives us some windows down here along the edge. It's not really ideal. It doesn't really look anything like Roz's window, but I could not come up with another alternative that I liked better. If you guys come up with another alternative, I'd love to hear it. But that was the best that I could think of to do. And I'm sure there's got to be a better way to do that. But that's what I did. All right, so now we have the entrance kind of framed in, and there's some decorations we can put in there later. Once again, when we bring out the interior toys, we'll put a coffee station and some vending machines and stuff over there. Now let's focus on the hallway out here. And for this, let me find my screen grabs here. First thing I want to do with this, before we start building the hallway around it, is to frame in the green paint around the entrance of this. So we're going to place one of these little short block walls here, and we're going to change the theme on this to use the green gloss theme. You have to go down just a little bit for that. It's actually not going to make this too shiny, but this shade of green really closely matches what is in the screen grab there. And now we'll just kind of fill in a perimeter around the scare floor entrance like that. And that looks pretty good. All right, and then for the ceiling, what I want to do for that, we have a block here, which is the upside down dip beam. That gives us the shape of the ceiling, and it looks really, really close. Gives us a nice hallway shape. Of course, that's the wrong texture, but that gives you a good idea of what we can do for the shape of that. And for this, we are going to use the executive theme. We got to go back to the left to find that. It's about the closest thing I could find that kind of made it look like the square ceiling tiles. And I like how that turned out. So we're going to put a bunch of these down along here. And once again, let me get my screen grab here to make sure I get this right. Here we go. All right, so we're going to put a total of 5 of these. And then we're going to skip and leave room for a couple more. And another 5. Excuse me, which takes us to there. On this end, we'll leave room for another 2 of these to sit in there. And we'll put down another 5 of these total. Okay. So that's going to give us the shape of our hallway. And in between, we need those lights. And the closest thing that I found that I liked for that was the Death Star floor grate. Thought that looked pretty decent. It's not an exact match, but it looks like those lights. I'll set that to be my theme. So if you look at that from down below, it's kind of lit up, and it's not square tiled like the other is, but I couldn't really find anything that looked like that. So I think that's about the best I could do. And when you look at this underneath, there's the ceiling for our hallway, and that looks pretty good. It gives us the shape of the hallway that we need. So I like that. All right, to frame in the wall on the opposite side, let's go back down. And I want to use these. Let's start over here. We're going to have to drop another floor tile here, or terrain block for the floor, but all right, let's set the theme back to Concrete 2. There's so many styles, you gotta scroll a long way to get to them. And while we're on this style, let's just go ahead and frame in all the wall parts that are going to use this. Alright, so we're going to do that. We're going to drop one of these, and we're just going to kind of alternate this all the way down. We could save ourselves a little time, I suppose, by doing it this way. Like that. And then I want to throw another one of these underneath that. Okay, and that's going to help us create the little inset areas that are going to be over on the side of the wall there. On this end is where the door is for the little storage room area. And I can't find my screen grab for that. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is going to sit over here like this. And we're going to put these in like that. These in up there like that. And we're going to put two of those in. Oops, wrong button, Troy. In like that. Okay. So that will be the doorway that leads into the storage area. This will be the doorway over here. Oops, did not want that piece in there. This will be the doorway over here that is going to serve as our entrance to this area. And if you had the memory and you wanted to, you could build out in this direction and put the hallway in for the offices. The lobby would be out over this way. Maybe at some point I'll show you what I had for the lobby. Because I did do a build for it and I ended up having to take it out. Let's put the rest of the floor in here. Once again, we're going to use the Nomancian Island headquarters theme. And there we go. Alright, so we'll pick this up. And we need to build a little wall over on this end. And I gotta find my screen grab for that. Okay. And we don't have room to put one of those long beams in there, so we'll have to just put a couple of blocks in like that. And on this end, we'll put a couple of vertical walls, large block walls. And that'll close that in. Okay, so that gives you the idea of a long hallway. We're only building one scare floor, but in the movie, this hallway went on indefinitely. And of course, as you saw in the exterior build, there were a ton of these buildings along the way. But we're only going to build one, because you can kind of see memory is only going to let us build a handful of these if we did that. And then we wouldn't be able to build the door storage area or anything else, or the bedrooms or anything else we needed. Alright, so the next part of this is going to be the inset area. And for this we're going to use these little short block walls. And I'm going to set them in there, and I'm going to prefer them like this instead of like that, because the inset will be a little less deep. And you have two options you can use for this. You can use the Metal 2 theme if you really wanted to. That's not bad. I don't like the metallic look of it though, and we are using that in the scare floor for the ceiling. And so that doesn't really look like concrete, but it could work. It's probably closer to the to what's in the actual movie than what I used. But what I chose to use instead was the tin roof theme. And we got to scroll a little ways to get back to that, which is this, and I'll set that to be my theme. This gives you the same vertical stripes, but there's a little bit of color to it, and it differentiates itself a little bit better from this, I think. But use whichever one you like. I don't think either one is wrong. They're both good choices. But you're just going to go along and fill in the gap underneath here. And then do the same thing on the other side of the hallway. So in that little spot, and down here on this end of the hall. And that looks pretty good. I like how that looks. And the hallway looks pretty good with the tiled floor and the green around the scare floor entrance there. I think that looks really nice. You can see the scare floor through here as you come through, and then it opens up into the scare floor. So that looks a lot like the movie. I really like that. Alright, now for the door, I think what we're going to do here is, because this is 3 blocks wide, as you can see from the ceiling there, and the door that we're going to use is only 2 blocks wide. So we're going to cover this up with panels, and let's switch this back again to concrete 2. There we go. And we need to put a couple of these across here to plug the gap that's going to be above the door. And for the door, if you go up to the Gameplay Toys drawer, and you go to the right, you'll find some doorways. And that has the wood look that kind of looks a little bit like what we saw. We're going to spin this around like that. Alright, so that gives us a wood look, even though it's not the hallway itself. At least there's some wood over there. So I think that's looking pretty good. And down here at the entrance, we're going to need another one of those doors. And get back to my screen grab there. Yeah, so for this is going to sit in here like that. And we can flip this around, actually. I think that would be better. And so there that is. Alright, how we doing on time? Well, we got just enough for a couple more details here, and then I think we got to wrap it up for today. Let's go back into the scare floor. One of the things you might notice, if I can get the camera in here, is that there is a gap up here between this block and the first ceiling tile here. You can kind of see some blue sky between there. So we want to cover that up, and we want to put something in there that's going to add a little bit of detail. And I think the perfect piece for that is under Building Sets Group 5. If you go to the right to the Nomancian Island pieces from Toy Box Takeover, you'll come to the Nomancian vent, and I think this will look really good in there. That adds a little bit of nice detail and character, which it kind of needs in here because it's all plain blocks. And that plugs the gap. So I like how that looks. If you don't have that object and it isn't available for you to unlock, I think you have to have the Toy Box Takeover set for that, but I can't remember for sure. If you don't have that, then just another one of these blocks would work, and you can maybe style that somehow to give it a little bit of extra texture. You could use a terrain block that's that shape and style it for the Death Star theme. That'll give you a little bit of visual interest up there. You could also use one of these if you don't like the square rectangular block sticking out too far. So there's some other options you can use, but if you have this, it's highly recommended because I just think that looks really good. Well, I think that's about as much as we can do today. Let's just take a really quick look at it. And that looks pretty good. We come through here. We got the darker floor. We come into the hallway. And the entrance is going to be over here. This is where we're going to come into the scare floor. So the player is going to start by facing over here like this. But that's as much as we're going to do today. Next time, we'll build the storage room at the end of the hallway there, where the stealth game takes place. And it'll be a shorter video because my parents will be visiting from out of town. So I'm not going to have time to do a long video, but I want to do something for you, and so that's what we'll do. Thank you for watching. Before you go, please hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know what you think of this part of the build. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that, so you don't miss the next episode. That's all for me today. Take care.